Hi, this is Freedom from Condo Planet. I want to welcome you to another episode of our video series on condos for rent in Mississauga. Today we're going to address the question of, can your landlord just raise the rent on you? This is a natural question. For anyone living in a condo in Mississauga, let's say you've just signed your lease agreement or you're well into your lease, you might be wondering, can your landlord just turn around and raise the rent out of you, or rent up out of nowhere? And arbitrarily for any amount that they wish? It's a good question. Unfortunately, the answer is not black and white. It really depends on your situation, and particularly, as we're going to get into, it really depends on the age of the condo you're living in. If you live in Mississauga condos built during or before 1998, your rent is protected through a guideline released by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing every year. This guideline sets up the maximum amount rent can be increased within a certain year. So for example, in 2013, the maximum amount that a landlord could increase the rent was by 2.5%. In 2014, it was far less. It was only 0.8%. This means that landlords cannot increase rent beyond that amount unless they apply for an exemption through the Landlord and Tenant Board. The rent increase is tied to the Consumer Price Index, which is a reliable measure of inflation in Ontario. Naturally, the costs of things are increasing. So for landlords, for example, their property taxes are going up, the utility bills are going up. So this is a measure designed to help landlords keep up with those increasing costs. Now, how does a landlord able to exercise this right of increasing the rent? Well, they can only do so once within a 12-month period. Okay, they can't keep increasing the rent every couple of months. It's only once within a 12-month period, and they have to fill out a specific form that they can find at the Landlord and Tenant Board website, and they have to give you, the tenant, at least 90 days notice of the rent increase. The benefit of this 90 days notice is that if you're not happy with that rent increase, you can turn around and give your landlord 60 days notice that you're going to terminate the lease and find another place to live in. So that's there for your benefit, that 90-day notice. If you live in Mississauga condos built after 1998, unfortunately, there is no guideline set to restrict increases on the rent. Okay, the landlord still can only increase the rent once a year and has to give you 90 days notice, has to use the same form, but there is no restriction. They could increase the rent as much as they wish. And obviously that might be a shock for you, but it's true. The good news is that landlords generally don't do that. If you have a good relationship with your landlord, they're not going to risk losing you for $25, $50 increase. But you have to keep in mind as a tenant that their costs are probably increasing. So as long as they're not trying to push you out of the lease and get rid of you by hiking the rent really high, as long as they're being reasonable, and usually they are, they're probably only going to increase it by a little bit, by a nominal amount, just to help them out. And I hope that'll be understandable for you as well. Regardless of the situation, if you're not comfortable with the rent increase, you do have options. You can always turn around and terminate the lease and start looking for a new place. And just as a little sales pitch in there, you can call us at Condo Planet. We'd be more than happy to help you find that place. Thanks for tuning into this episode. Wishing you a wonderful day. Take care.